everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and today I'm here with Alastair Humphreys. Alastair is an adventurer, an author and a motivational speaker, and this year he's been shortlisted for the National Geographic Adventurer of the Year, which is very cool. So welcome, Al.
Hello, thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you on the show. So, you've done so many things. You've cycled around the world and you've just been doing all these fun adventures. And for this latest book, you actually walked across India, which is, I'm such a fan of India, so that's amazing. So just tell us a bit more briefly about that trip.
Well, it was southern India. India is obviously shaped like this. So if you head down near the south, it's not quite so hardcore. But I wanted to walk across India and I wanted to follow a river. So I found a holy river and I decided to follow that from the sea right the way to the source and then carry on down to the other coast. And I just had to work out how much time I had available and then head sufficiently far south so I could get across in the time. It was a very simple trip, very little planning. The whole thing cost me £500, of which 300 was the plane ticket, and I just flew to India, took a bus to the start, and then walked across India. And when I got to the sea, I took the train back again and came home. So it was a very simple trip, but a really interesting and beautiful one as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you did this several years of cycling around the world, and you're always out doing fun things. What drives you to this life? I love the book because you do cover a lot of that, but maybe just tell the listeners.
There's so many different reasons why I do these things, but I think the simplest answer is that it's fun and that I enjoy it and I like having adventures. And then there's the whole world of challenging myself physically and mentally. I find that very interesting. I like going to places that I've never been before. And I also just find it a whole lot easier than real life as well. If you're just out there in the middle of nowhere walking somewhere, then life is hard, but it's also very simple and it's also very addictive. And when you get to the end of one trip, I usually think, wow, I can't believe I finished that. If I can do that, what else can I do? And so the cycle continues.
No, I like that. And so I think maybe we'll come back to the whole pushing the comfort zone thing. But we wanted to talk today about the interesting ways that you have published your writing about this trip. So maybe you could just outline what you've done with your book.
Okay. So I do all of these trips, but a large part of what I do is about trying to tell the stories of the trip. So during the walk itself, I decided that I wasn't going to do any blogging, so that then becomes quite time-consuming and complicated. So I just used Twitter to share my story as I went, and Twitter's becoming quite an important thing for me. And then when I came home, I started to write a book about it. But I didn't just want to write just an ordinary, normal travel book. I went here and then I did this and then I did this. I wanted to try and think of something a little bit different. So I decided to try and write the book. There were two things that I really wanted to explain. One was what this life on the road, the walking and the expeditions, the adventures, I wanted to explain what they were like. And I also wanted to try and explain why I do these sort of things. And they're the two threads that run through the book, the story of the trip and then the why I do these things. And the challenge was trying to find a way to thread those together coherently, because they're two very separate stories, really.
So how did you do it? Because I mean, I've got here, and I want to talk about some of these cool things. I've got your little map. So can we talk about this first? I know you've got one there. Show us the map and explain that, because I think it's so cool.
Okay. Right. So one of the problems for me writing this book was that I didn't really think that it was a linear story from the start to finish, and a book by definition takes you on a linear route. So I was really struggling with that when I was doing it, and I always had these big spider diagrams trying to fit everything together, so I decided to try and tell the story in a non-linear way. So I made a map of it, and obviously a map links up with travel. I love maps. They're very tactile things, so I decided to tell my story on a huge map.
It's brilliant. It's really a full size, isn't it, as well?
And it's a proper full size map.
Oh, it's awesome. And they're all your photos, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's double-sided. And it's got 9,000 words of the story and over 100 photographs in this. So I decided. So I thought that was an interesting way to say it, because I had these two themes to this trip and to the book, the story of the trip and the why. I've done each of those on opposite sides of the map. And so because there's two stories within one, I got two different versions of the map printed. Oh. So they're identical inside, but there's two different covers, and it's just different ways to explore it, really. And I was thinking that people who open this map, it'll take a while to figure out, and you read a little bit, and you see a few pictures, and I see it as something that people have to explore for themselves, really, and just delve into the trip and take out of it what interests them. And I love it. I think it's really, really cool.
I love it too. And I know, and I'm sitting here thinking, right, I want to do one. Yes. So what can I do it on? And I think, almost lots of different people could do it. I mean, travel writers, obviously, memoir, you could do it. Even I thought fantasy worlds, like different, you could do it about your fantasy, because a lot of people are authors who are listening. So is there a way that people can make these themselves?
You can't make these, you can't make it yourself. It's a friend of mine runs the company that does it, and she it's her project, so you do it collaboratively with her if you're interested. It's called a folded sheet, and hopefully no one will do it because I want to have these all to myself.
No, you started a trend.
Yeah, but I'm definitely going to do several more of these, but because they're very artistic, and they're, for the person who does it, Lucy, it's her art project, so it's a collaborative piece of work with her. And they're absolutely beautiful. They're really high quality map paper, proper hiking maps. They feel really nice. They're lovely, and you just want to feel them and play with them. Explore them.
I think it's great because this to me is the future of books. It's that you have the base, the Kindle, whatever, and then you have all these cool print versions. So what are the other print things that you played with? I know you've got different versions.
Yes. So I thought I'd better write a normal book as well. So I made a normal book, and it's quite a short book. It's 30,000 words, and I decided to get this printed myself. So I just found a printing company in London that I would be happy with doing nice quality, and I got them to print me a few thousand of them, and I've got an insert of colour photos inside, which the books that I've done before haven't had photos in the middle, and that's always the primary complaint I get. So I paid a bit extra to get pictures in, but I think that was definitely worth doing. So I got a few thousand of those just printed out straight off, which I realised there's pros and cons of doing that. But I also wanted it to be available for people to buy through print on demand, people to buy on Amazon wherever they are in the world. So I also did the same book in the same version, but this is done through Amazon through Create Space. So if anyone buys it on Amazon, this is the book they'll get, which is it doesn't have the photographs in, unfortunately, but I'm really happy with the print quality of it. It's slightly bigger than the one I did, but the content is exactly the same.
And then the photo book.
Okay, and then and then I also thought that I would make a coffee table photo book out of it. So each of these versions, the map, the book, and this coffee table, all of them have the same chapters in, and they just have different amount of words. For obviously the book has got the most words. The picture book has the fewest words. So So for this, I had to distill every chapter down to one page of text and then one photograph. So this is a coffee table book, and I made this on Blurb, which is very simple to do, and it's really good quality, but it's also very expensive for people to buy. So this is not really a financially that sensible one, but it was very simple to do. And the main reason I went for Blurb was because it was effortless to turn it into an iPad version.
Oh, lovely.
For zero effort. And obviously iPads are so beautiful for
Yeah,
showing off
pictures.
pictures. And this then becomes far more financially viable. So the iPad version only costs £1.99, which I think is a perfectly fair price, whereas the print photo book's about £20 to £25, which is quite a lot of money. But the main benefit of it was to get it effortlessly turned into that.
And is that for sale on the iBook store or?
It will be. It's on my to-do list. At the moment, it's for sale on the Blurb bookstore and on my own website.
Yeah. I mean, I love this. You've done this huge creative project around your book. And most of us just do a Kindle version these days. So let's talk about that because, and your comfort zone, because you do all of these amazing adventures. And yet, you have said to me, I hate the Kindle. I hate the ebook. You know, what's going on there? And have you got over this?
I don't know why doing adventures has to be linked to a love of Kindles.
No, it's about comfort zone. You're out of your comfort zone with ebooks.
No, I'm not. I just don't like they're horrible and ugly and plasticky and nasty and I hate them. But I'm being forced to admit that they are very, very useful. They're a very good way of reading a book, and sadly, I fear that they're the future. But it's also great for me for all the reasons that you always, why Kindles are good. I agree with all of those, but for me it's also good because this book it's not a very thick book. It's only 30,000 pages. 30,000 words, and I was a little bit concerned that it wasn't quite value for money as a full price book. So whereas putting it on a Kindle and selling it for £2.18, then I feel it's definitely value for money. And being self-publishing and running my own company, it's really important to give value for money so that people don't feel ripped off. I think you can rip people off once, but you can't rip them off twice. So I was really conscious of making it be value for money. And the Kindle now is a great potential for me for sharing some of the trips that I do that don't merit being a full book in itself, but which are more interesting than just a magazine article that I might write for a magazine. So I think you can write a book that's 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 words on a Kindle and sell it for £2, and it's a good thing for the author and it's a value for money, interesting read for the person reading it. So it's opening up so many doors for me in terms of how I'm going to try and share my stories over the next year or two.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I'm a Kindle fan, and
you converted me.
No, and it is, but I like your project because you've done so many things, and I think you'll inspire some other people to try some more interesting print versions. So I also wanted to ask you, because for your bike around the world, you had a traditional publisher, and then you've moved into self-publishing. So was that to do, why did you do that? I've
written four books through a traditional publisher beforehand, and I think I will continue to do some books in the future with a traditional publisher. I wanted to do this on my own for several reasons. One was just I'm quite pig-headed and stubborn, and I quite like to do things on my own. And doing something like a walk, when you're completely on your own, walking through India, you have to rely on yourself and trust yourself. And if you succeed, it's because of you, and if you fail, it's because of you. And I quite like that risky vulnerability, and I felt the same thing about doing this book. So I decided that I wanted to do this book by myself. And so I'm not saying this is a good thing to do, but what I've done, nobody else read it before it was published. Nobody has proofread it. Nobody has edited it. And I'm aware that those things are all not very sensible, but I really like the fact that this is all down to me, and anything that's bad about this is my fault. Anything good is me as well, and I really like that. So I like the independence of the self-publishing. It also meant that I could do fun things like this and then stick it on an iPad, and I could do all of these things without having contracts and all these sort of boring complications to it. And it also meant I could do the whole thing very, very quickly. In about 2 months, I put together the whole book and all these different formats. And if you're doing that with a publisher, it would take many, many months to get done. So I quite like that I could just get on and get it done. And it's also got it done in time for the Christmas rush, which is a good time to do it. Yeah, and I just like the freedom to be my own boss a little bit. Some of I think the two disadvantages of the self-publishing, one is the lack of professional editing, which I know you can get through freelance work, and also is the difficulties in marketing it and getting it promoted. So my book won't be in any bookshops, but I felt that the benefits outweighed those two disadvantages.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so looking forward, and you've got a nice post on your blog about, planning for next year and everything. So what's happening for you in 2012?
2012, I'm hoping, is going to have two pretty big expeditions for me. I leave in 2 weeks' time to row across the Atlantic Ocean. I've just bought a waterproof case for my Kindle, so that's going to be coming across the Atlantic with me.
Have you got like a charger? How do you charge it?
A waterproof reading case.
No, but how do you keep it charged?
Well, we have solar panels on the boat.
Oh.
Yeah, because we'll be updating the blog and using the satellite phone to communicate with schools and things. So there's quite a lot of technology on it.
So can we follow that trip or will it be on your blog, or how do we follow that?
I've spent most of the last 2 nights sleeplessly trying to make my satellite phone speak to my website, and I think I've succeeded. So it should all be on my website and on my Twitter feed. And so that's a couple of months rowing across the Atlantic, and then the major project, hopefully for the end of next year, is an expedition to the South Pole. But that one still requires quite a lot of sponsorship. But that's the big plan for next year. So hopefully 2 big trips, and then a couple of books to be written as well.
And people can hear you speak live, can't they? You do a lot of speaking.
I think my job is not really my job is doing expeditions, adventures, and speaking about them and writing about them. So I do quite a lot of talks, mostly in the UK, but a few overseas as well.
Brilliant. So where can people find you and your books?
Everything is on alastairhumphreys.com, which hopefully, if you can't spell my name, you should find on Google.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, thanks ever so much for your time, Alastair. That was great.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.